Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lou. You are listening to the Hello and Welcome podcast, which is a presentation of ToonieBet online sportsbook and casino. Alex Wong is currently in transit from New York back to Toronto, so he will eventually be back on the program. But Alex, I'm just happy you're able to escape New York at all at the current moment. Joining me in his place are two of the writers at Raptors in 7. Big V, Vivek Jacob, and Big Dub, Joe Wolfond. I don't think I've ever called you that, but how you guys doing? You guys good?
How'd that feel coming off the tongue?
Big Dub, I don't know. You just it's tough. It has no meaning. It's one of those nicknames that have no meaning, like CB4. Like it's just there, you know. So, how you doing?
Great. Good to be here.
Love it.
Good to be here as a fill-in for Alex, as usual.
Well, I was gonna say I've yet to see the two of you appear on the same episode. It's been a while.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh man.
V, people are already noticing that new Argentina kit that you got on, man.
You know, I had to go get it, man. This Argentina kit is fire. I mean, there's a whole bunch that got released. The Costa Rica one is crazy. Jamaica is crazy. And then, like, I don't know if it's, like, being the host nation or just going from 32 teams to 48, but there's just so many jerseys available in stores.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't remember, the previous World Cups having, like, so many jerseys available. So I don't know if it's, like, something where, like, the host city just has to be responsible and have, like, all the jerseys available. Or if it's just like going up from 32 to 48, and the security on these jerseys is crazy, man. Like,
word? Wait,
it's like
you can't just go and buy it off the rack.
No, like each jersey had like a security tag, and then all the jerseys were like tied together to this one big tag. And like, yeah, so this person had to like come unlock both, and then walked me to the fitting room. To try it, and then I got it. I was like, after all of that, I better get it.
Not that this is the biggest issue with America, but I remember last year we went to Atlanta, and Drum was like, "Yeah, I just need to go get some like hand lotion." We go to the CVS, which is like, I guess their Shoppers Drug Mart, and somehow every single item is locked up behind bars. Like you need to go call someone to get like one singular toothbrush, if you so chose to get it. Like it is. But okay, all right. Well, get excited, guys. World Cup's here. V, I know you're gonna be excited to sit in those flimsy bleachers that they set up at BMO Field that I was recently there to witness. But we're not here to talk about all that, nor are we here to talk about whatever tennis event was just happening, because you two love talking tennis. All right, we're here to talk about the Toronto Raptors. And yeah, I mean, 11 games left in the season. Just coming off a win over the Utah Jazz that I hope neither of you guys stayed up for. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about this piece that you guys had, going back and forth, again, on Raps in 7. Go subscribe to the Substack. But just about the future of the team. How much do you believe in the future of the team? But before we get to the future, I wanted to just talk about the present. And really, in the last 11 games, my biggest thing to look at is just how can the Raptors solve their fourth quarter issues? What are the fourth quarter issues that they're having? Because if they could just close out a couple of these key games on the stretch, Raptors should be able to avoid the play-in. Wolfond, we'll start with you. What do you actually see as like the commonalities when you think about the Raptors losing the fourth quarters, which they do quite often? What's coming up all the time?
I'll start with the simplest thing, which is that they're not making shots. They're shooting 29% from 3 in the fourth quarters. That's 30th in the NBA. So that's obviously a big one. And I think generally you can't rule fatigue out of the equation. Like, this is a team that plays a pretty high intensity style and a pretty taxing brand of basketball, frankly, right? Like, they are, I think, number 3 now in transition frequency, so they run a lot. They also, their defensive possessions are the longest of any team in the league. And that's a good thing. Like, they're forcing opponents to work deep in the shot clock. It's a big part of why they've been successful defensively. But that's also taxing, right? Like, that's a lot of time that they're spending at that end, scrambling, rotating. And it's not, obviously, like, the length of the possessions is part of it, but it's also the nature of those possessions where, like, they help a lot. Like, they're in the gaps, they're doubling the ball, they have extended pressure high up on the floor. So I think that it has to be considered part of it, right? Is like they are running a lot offensively. They're playing these long, grinding defensive possessions. Like, even in terms of just like distance covered defensively, they cover more ground on defense than any team in the league. So I think it makes sense that by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, they might be a little bit worn down. And maybe that's impacting the jump shooting, right? Like, maybe that's why they're the worst three-point shooting team in the fourth quarters. Obviously, like, they're not a great jump shooting team on the whole, but remarkably, in the third quarter, they're the second best three-point shooting team in the league. They shoot 40% from three in the third quarter. So obviously it would be great if they could find a way to carry some of that over to the fourth. And I don't know how much of it to lay at the feet of like simple exhaustion. But I do think that's part of it. And like, there's some other stuff that I can get into, but I'll hand the mic over to V if he wants to chime in here with any other rationale.
Yo, V, you got to unmute the mic.
My bad, guys. Yeah, I think all those points are valid. When I look at the fourth quarter, I think from the eye test, one of the main things that stands out to me is just how many possessions pretty much from the backcourt are starting in Brandon Ingram's hands. And I think that is where, when you talk about the tempo slowing down, the Raptors kind of walking the ball up the court, all of that, I think that's where, just to use Draymond Green as an example, like, he is so responsible for the Warriors' pace when they're playing at their best. And he's very cognizant of, like, even off makes, like, get that ball down the court and like put pressure on the defense. And I think that's something that in the fourth quarter, for whatever reason, the Raptors are just almost like in a bit of a malaise, or like, even, you look at the fact that they've given up these double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. I think they do get a little too protective and almost like playing for time as opposed to just playing the game. And I think that's something that really needs to change, and it's become a really bad habit. And I think we've seen improvements in that area, but there's still work to be done in terms of just consistently playing with that pace, where, as opposed to, there's a bunch of times where you see them pretty much just starting to get into the offense when they've just got over half court, and it's like already down to like 14 on the shot clock. And it's like, no, how do we do this with like 18 on the clock and like go through the offense? And then, what we see in the first three quarters more often is Brandon Ingram being that sort of escape valve, that release valve, and being like, okay, it's under 10 on the clock. Like, BI, you go to work. Like, we tried the first 14 seconds. It's on you now. And I'd like to see more of that in the fourth, where it's like, okay, run plays, whether it's for RJ, whether it's for Scotty. Scotty's numbers in the fourth are tremendous, and I think that's something that's been underutilized, and I think that's something they have to go to more. And I'd just like to see more of that consistency in terms of, hey, let's run our offense, let's try to get good looks, and then when it's under 10 on the clock, we know we've got someone who can kind of bail us out.
Okay, going back to this tweet by Wolfond, and for the podcast audience who aren't watching the video portion, it's where the Raptors rank in offensive rating by quarter. This might have changed with the Jazz game. But by the way, the Raptors also scored 49 points in the third quarter against the Jazz. So this would actually only improve the number. But Raptors in offensive ranking by quarter. First quarter, 17th. Second quarter, 20th. Third quarter, somehow they're 4th. The Raptors are one of the best third quarter teams out there. They've had, I think, 9 or 10 40-point third quarters now. And then fourth quarter, they drop down to 28th. What are they doing so well in the third quarter that they're not doing in the fourth quarter?
I mean, again, like, they're making threes, which is huge. But I do think it's like going back to what V said about pace and kind of blending that with what I was talking about in terms of just like energy, right? Like having the energy to sprint through your actions rather than to jog through them, right? To push the ball across the timeline in like 2 or 3 seconds instead of walking it across. I think that makes a huge difference for an offense like them that has to rely on like pass and cut rather than, they don't have like the half court button that they can press where they're just guaranteed to like get a good shot, like they don't have the Murray Jokic pick and roll button they can press, or like the James Harden pick and roll button. Like they don't have that. Like they have to get the defense on the back foot, and the easiest way for them to do that, as we've seen throughout this season, is to like really push the ball up the floor. And in the half court, like if they're facing a set defense, continue to play with pace. I mean, that's something Darko emphasizes all the time, right? That like pace is not just about transition. It's like you got to play with pace in the half court as well. And I do think that dries up in the fourth quarter, and especially in crunch time. I mean, like their pace in crunch time, and like this is a little bit hard to parse because of what I mentioned about their defense. Like that's playing into like overall pace. It's not just filtering out their offensive pace. You can do that overall, like in predictable tracks, average time to shot, which is just offensive pace, but they don't filter out like by quarter. But in crunch time, the Raptors are like by far the slowest paced team in the league. It's like 3 possessions per 48 minutes, slower than the next slowest team in the clutch. So they are really slowing it down when, like to Vivek's point, they should be doing the opposite, right? Like when they have the most success is when they're really pushing the ball up the floor. And what's, I think, doubly frustrating about that is like the reasons that teams typically slow things down in the fourth quarter is like to maximize possessions and protect the ball. The Raptors' turnover rate spikes big time in the fourth quarter. Like they go from being one of the most judicious teams in the league in terms of taking care of the basketball to like, they're still not terrible, but they're more like middle of the pack. And like in those middle quarters, they're top 5 team in terms of turnover rate, around like 13%. And then it goes up above 15% in the fourth quarter. And so it's like, again, could fatigue play into that? Sure. I also think it's like in the fourth quarter, the defense sort of tightens the screws. The whistles go away a little bit. Like I think the refs call it a little bit looser. And so you're going up against more physicality, you're going up against a more dialed in defense. And then it's like the cracks in the facade really start to show, where when you are a team that doesn't have a ton of shooting, doesn't have a ton of ball handling, and you're going up against these physical dialed in defenses, like the stuff that you're relying on, the pass and cut stuff, like the bully drives from RJ and Scotty, like the Ingram mid post ISOs. All of that stuff just gets harder to execute. And so I think suddenly when like the defense is kind of like gearing up and, you know, like the offense just doesn't have, again, like those easy sort of like triggers to go to, that's why I think we're seeing that they're turning the ball over more in the fourth quarter on top of like playing a little bit slower, which it's just sort of a double whammy that's really hurting them.
Honestly, I think some of the issues are starting to like compound, right? Because even the turnovers, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, I think some of the turnovers that stand out recently are like Brandon Ingram 8-second violations bringing the ball up in back-to-back games. Like even having it once is pretty bad, but I understand like once in a while you have a brain fart. To have it in back-to-back games is just like
against
completely
zero pressure, by the way, right? Like totally unforced.
Right. We're not talking about like, you know, Kyle Anderson over here bringing the ball up. Jamal Shed throwing the ball away at certain moments. Like again, a lot of these are completely unnecessary. I do think that like the team's very aware of the issues, and sometimes they have recognized that they've gotten stuck in these really, you know, Brandon Ingram reliant patterns. I was kind of encouraged with how they closed the Suns game in the win over the Suns, and also the game against the Pistons. You saw other guys get involved. There's certain games where I'm like, why is Scotty in the corner? That's certainly very strange. I would love to see him involved. I honestly don't even mind occasional RJ Barrett pick and rolls in the fourth quarter. Again, it's not the priority, and you should have a very clear lineation of like, we want to do this, then this, then this. But I mean, maybe as a third item, sure, why not? I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't involve Brandon. Brandon obviously does give him a lot of advantages, but it's they just get kind of really predictable, and as you guys say, they get incredibly slow. Is there, if I were to ask you each for one immediate solution that you would like to see to help the fourth quarters, what would that be? It could be anything.
I think off the top, I'd say that, just starting out possessions with Scotty handling, with quickly handling, whoever the point guard is, I think that will go a long way. Like you mentioned about like BI just like walking the ball up with no pressure on him whatsoever. Like, it's just not in his nature to like push the pace like that. And I think that when you have those other guys push the pace, that's when you get into more of a natural flow. And so I think that's the first, I think that's the starting point. That's kind of the root of it. And so that'll be the first thing I'd try to change. And just quickly, I was looking up the numbers on pace. Raptors in the first quarter have a pace of 101.7, second quarter 99.4, third quarter 100.8, and then in the fourth quarter it's down to 95. And yeah, we get it. The fourth quarter, the game does slow down, but at the same time, it is somewhat self-inflicted. And, we mentioned how, like, those easy baskets dry up in the fourth. Like, when we talk about the turnovers, they've also had bad turnovers in transition where they should be capitalizing and getting super easy buckets. And that has really hurt them. So that thing that they're so good at, like when you look at fast break points and you see them at the top of the league, like they should actually have a significant margin there, but it's just they're so inefficient at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the crazy things, right? Like if you look at cleaning the glass, they track first shot half court efficiency. And the Raptors are 12th in that stat. Like people wring their hands a lot about the half court offense. They're 12th in first shot half court efficiency. And they're, again, number 3 in transition frequency. So, like, considering that transition possessions are, like, way more effective, more efficient than half court possessions, and they're doing pretty well at the half court possessions and playing in transition a lot, you'd think that they should be, like, based on that alone, a top 10 offensive team. But like Vivek said, like, they're not really doing a good job of converting those transition possessions into points. And again, like this is something I've mentioned before, like when they get offensive rebounds, they're doing a terrible job, dead last in the league at turning those second chance opportunities into points. So it's a lot of low hanging fruit that they're sort of leaving on the vine. But as far as what I would want to see, like I would like to see more Scotty initiated possessions. And I think the easiest way to do that and like create good offense out of it is just to run more inverted pick and roll. Like I just don't understand why that isn't something that they've gone to very often. Because it does put the defense in a bind. And I think
so. You want quickly to come over, set a screen for Scotty,
set
kind
a
of like
screen,
how Kyle used to always set for DeMar and Kawhi, yeah,
and Pascal, right? Like Pascal and Kyle, Pascal and Fred, like, and Scotty, like, is not at a point where he has the type of one-on-one game that Pascal did, like toward the end of his Raptors tenure, where it's like if the defense does switch that, it's a bucket. Like that was where Pascal was at, where like the defense really, really didn't want to switch that because of how effective he was at putting those smaller guys in the basket. Scotty's not quite there yet, but like he can attack a mismatch. And by the way, like if like they run stuff to get Ingram switched on to like particular matchups in crunch time, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's what you're trying to get to, I feel possibly better about Scotty being the guy who's getting that mismatch, just in terms of like if the defense comes over to help, who do I trust to make a play in that situation? Like Scotty's a much, much better passer than Brandon is. And also I think just in terms of like the ability to like get to the basket, right? And not turn those situations into just mid-range jumpers, which yes, Ingram shooting over a smaller defender can be effective, but you can just look at the numbers, right? Like Ingram has a 46% shooting mark in the clutch. There are 46 guys in the league who have played in at least 15 games where there's been crunch time, and in those situations has a usage percentage of 25% or above. And Ingram is 42nd of those 46 guys in true shooting.
Yeah.
But Raptors fans maybe will be happy to know that one of the guys below him is Paolo at 37%, which is like unfathomable. But
lost the game at the buzzer last night. Well done, Pascal.
It's just like,
thank you.
Yes, objectively, like that's not working. Scotty's true shooting percentage in the clutch is really good. It's like 63%. You know, and like it's not fair to compare because his shot diet is easier than Brandon's. But also it's like, you know, and again, we're factoring in the difficulty of the shots they're taking, but like Ingram's specialty is these mid-range shots. Scotty's got a better shooting percentage on mid-range jumpers than Ingram does this season. Scotty shoots 48% on long mid-rangers, and Brandon's at 46%. So I wouldn't see an issue with just like shifting a little bit more of that fourth quarter offense towards Scotty. And yeah, using IQ as a screener, using Jacoby as screeners, right? Like these guys are good shooters. They're usually going to have, like the weakest opposing defenders guarding them. And that's going to put the defense in a tough situation. Like they're going to have to decide, are they going to switch that guy into Scotty? Are they going to kind of like soft show, hard show, put 2 on the ball, allow that shooter to get free? Like, I just think putting Scotty in that position where the defense maybe is in a bind, where there is going to be 2 guys on the ball, or whether he's going to have a chance to like drive against a smaller defender, I think could be beneficial. So I think that's just one simplistic way that maybe they could get a little bit more dynamism in the late game offense.
And to be fair, like we actually are seeing more of that. Like towards the end of the Nuggets game, you saw Scotty, like he had 3 straight possessions where the goal was to either attack Christian Brown or Jamal Murray, the 2 smallest guys on the court for Denver, and they accomplished that by having guards set the screen. We even saw a bit of this in the Suns game where, Brandon was like, they were specifically mismatch hunting, or even in the Pistons game, they were specifically mismatch hunting. I think that's like the team is sort of aware of this issue and they're trying to improve upon it. We'll see sort of ultimately what level you get to. But the funny thing with this is when you're describing the true shooting of Scotty in clutch time versus like Brandon, it's kind of like in baseball. Like if your 8th inning guy has like a 1.5 ERA and then your closer is Jeff Hoffman with like a 4.5, and you're just like, dog, I don't know. Maybe we don't just always turn the ball in the 9th inning to a guy. But sports teams are weird like that. They really are very big on structure. I do think if the Raptors just like, I mean, this is an issue that they're going to have to face in the playoffs too, but if they can somehow find a solution to this in the last month of the season, this might be the most consequential thing they can do as a group the rest of the way in order to avoid the play-in and also to win some games in the playoffs. I actually wanted to get your thoughts on 5 trends that are happening across the league right now, but first, I want Jerome to drop these 2 for a second as I speak to the fan base. Calling all Raptor fans, Lotto Max and the Raptors have officially launched their Max Contract Fan Contest, where one winner will be given the chance to call the shots and personalize their own prize pack worth $50,000. What prizes can you get? Well, what about season tickets for next season, 2026, 2027? Or maybe 5 courtside seats to next year? Or maybe, how about if you want it right now, a chance to attend all home playoff games this year. That could be 1, that could be 2, that could be many more than that. Visit the Raptors app to learn more. Enter today, and don't forget to opt into emails to hear about your chances to win. No purchase is necessary. 18 plus Ontario only. Offer ends March 29th, 2026. Grand prize winner to select one prize from each of Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Visit the Toronto Raptors app for full contest rules, prize details, and how to enter. Okay, bring my guys back up here. I got 5 trends to take a look at. I'm going to call this segment Chill or No Chill, okay? Because I'll let you know how everyone can make the chill choice at the end of this. But I'm going to give you 5 trends, and I want you to tell me if this is all chill, like I got to chill out, or it's not chill, and we got to fix this immediately. First item on the list. So this is prior to Jamal's game against the Jazz yesterday, and I understand he had 15 assists. I'm sorry, I just didn't update the numbers, okay? I was busy this afternoon. But Jamal Shed, in the month of March, okay, he was averaging 3.3 points, 4.1 assists, and 27% from the field, and 15% from 3. This is, of course, not factoring yesterday where he did have 15 assists, so the assists will jump up. But overall, 3 points, 4 assists, 27% from the field, 15% from 3 in the month of March. Let's start with V. Do I got to chill out or no? There's no chill with a number like this.
I mean, I feel like there's no chill in the sense that Shed has probably exceeded my expectations for the season overall. I did not expect him to play as well as he has for the majority of the season. I think he, for the most part, has made significant improvement in his decision making. Like, I think if you look at last season, the frequency of those turnovers where it just looked a little chaotic and he was kind of throwing it into no man's land, like, I think that was happening a lot, and I think he's cut down on that a lot. We're seeing it creep back in a bit more the last while. And then, yeah, with the offense, like, I don't think anyone expected him to be a consistent threat from deep. And I think now, as we sort of ramp up to playoff ball and the games get more significant and have more at stake, I think that's getting exposed more and more. So I'd say no chill in the sense that this is more in line with the expectations I had coming in. I think he has been thrust into the backup point guard role maybe a year too soon. And I think that he's exceeded expectations to look like a quality backup for the majority of the year. And now that's maybe tailing off.
Wolfond. I'm sorry, man. I keep staring at 27% from the field and 15% from three. I can't look away. What say you?
Yeah, hard to feel chill about that, I would say. And I think it's just generally, like, especially if we're looking ahead to the playoffs, I think the worry is, and this has already started to happen, is like teams are like playing him for the drive, right? And they would much rather just like lay off and let him shoot, and he has not shot the ball well at all. And then when he is able to kind of like get past that first line of defense, they're playing him to pass, right? Like they are sort of using his tendencies against him. And I think when you do see the turnovers, like I feel like there's a lot of skip passes that get picked off. Like teams seem to really be sitting on that. And he's still a low turnover guard, but it's like, I think that when you start to see that with a guy who is limited, and granted, like, you know, again, he got thrust into this role. He's a second-year player. He has a lot of growing to do still. He has brought a lot to this team and has been, like, a big part of the successes that they've had. But I do think those limitations are catching up to him a bit, and I think the way that he's being scouted has a lot to do with it. And so I would say... So if we say no chill, that means we're worried about it, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, as far as like this season goes, and looking ahead to the playoffs, I would say no chill. Like I'm concerned about how he's going to be able to fare in a playoff series, just given what we've seen over this last little while.
Yeah, I did. Okay, I did the non-lazy thing. I did update the numbers. He's 14 of 50 from the field in the month of March, which is 28%, and he's 4 of 24 from three. That does include the last-second half-court banked-in three that he hit last night. That's at 17%. I'm gonna round up from 16.7 to 17. So, look, I agree with you guys. Like the league adjusted to Jamal. Now Jamal's got to adjust to the league. I think almost more concerning is that he only has 4 steals and 3 blocks total. You would expect more defensive impact. But again, Jamal's clearly not playing well. And I think he's become too important to play poorly. Similarly to this player, Sandro Mamukelashvili, since the All-Star break, shooting 28% from the 3-point line. Chill or no chill, guys?
I'm going to say no chill. I think that Mamu has, shown some weaknesses defensively over the majority of the season. And, that's only becoming increasingly exposed now. I think that offensively, you still see like the smart instincts and that willingness to like make the right play. But in terms of his dependability, like I think he's pretty much been inconsistent all season, and now we're seeing more of the downs than ups. And it has kind of become a thing where when you go up against the Utah Jazz or say the Pelicans or whatever, I do expect a good game. And then when you go up against these top teams where they're tighter in terms of what they're trying to execute, he struggles. And so I do feel like in that regard, there's pressure being put on him. I think, probably unfairly, he's played more of the 5 than he should have this season. Yeah. And, that comes down to the availability of Yak and CMB and whatnot. And so, the more minutes he can play at the 4, or even we saw a little bit of the 3, the better. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is kind of who he is. And I think, he is someone who in a playoff setting where if teams kind of pick at him defensively, it might get difficult to keep him on the floor.
I'm pretty chill on Mamu. Like I think he's been in his role, honestly, everything that the Raptors could have hoped for, expected, and more. Like I think,
for sure. Yeah.
Obviously, like, and he's not like some ace 3-point shooter. Like his track record of being even, like a passable 3-point shooter is relatively short. So I think there is some inconsistency that is just to be expected there. There's this weird quirk of his season where he shot better on contested and semi-contested threes than he has on wide open threes.
Weird.
And that's just like a thing that's like plagued the Raptors as a team. They're the worst or second worst wide open 3-point shooting team in the league.
Say one nice thing about the Raptors 3-point shooting, Joe. Just one, please.
I did, dude. They're the second best 3-point shooting team in the third quarter in the entire league.
Wow. We the third, baby.
There we go.
Okay, fine.
But yeah, like I think again, like there are different facets to his offensive game that I think are really beneficial for the Raptors. Like his pump and drive game is actually very effective. He generally makes pretty good decisions on the move. Like I think like having a guy like that in the front court who brings those skills. I think the interesting thing is like I agree with Vivek. Like the minutes at the 5 have been sort of rough defensively and on the glass, and like have maybe caught up with him physically a little bit. But then when you sort of slide him down the positional spectrum, the offensive skills that he has don't play up as much. And so if like you look at the lineup data, like the lineups where he's playing the 5 are like really strong offensively, and that dips considerably when he's playing the 4. So I think that will be that's where the rubber will meet the road, right? Is like if he's not shooting the ball well and he's playing the 4, then that gets trickier, right? But then, like, can they survive defensively with him at the 5? I guess that's when the worry would creep in. But for now, I'm choosing to believe that he's going to be fine because he's been rock solid this year.
I was going to say, just quickly, I would chill on this just because I think the best pairing for him is him and CMB together. CMB can kind of nominally be the 5, and Sandro can kind of be the 4. But I do agree, like, this is a thing for a lot of stretch centers. Like, they always look better offensively when they play 5, but there's obviously a huge trade-off. Mamu might be in contention for our modern day Patrick Patterson. Actually, I'm gonna see if he's also a fan of movies as well. Remember when Patrick Patterson said I'm a cinephile, and then he said my favorite movie is Space Jam. Crazy, what a brick. Anyway, next one. We'll move a little faster. Scotty's averaging 16 points per game since the All-Star announcement on February 1st. That's when he was announced as a reserve. Prior to that, he was at 19.4. Chill or no chill, guys.
I mean, I think this is one I'll chill on. I think he did have a slow start out of the gate. And let's also remember that Brandon Ingram came out absolutely firing out of the break.
For sure.
And with Scotty, I do think there is still that sense of like wanting him to take the reins more offensively and just be that guy at certain moments. And I think when we come back to those fourth quarter conversations, like one thing that I've kept in mind is when you look at the previous years, like how many times have we said fourth quarter Scotty, right? And how much he's like turned it up in those big moments. And that has been, pretty rare to see this season. And I think that's something that, whether it's how Darko is just running the offense or whatever it might be, and just the over-reliance on Brandon Ingram, I think that is something that really needs to change. Obviously, he's like A+++ defensively. He's an absolute superstar, doing so much on that end of the floor. So you have to ask on some level, how much that takes away from what he can give on the offensive end. But I do think that he has it in him. I think that, especially come playoff time, if you start to see, those fourth quarter tendencies, I would like him to sort of say like, okay, that's enough of that. Get me the ball, let's make something happen here. And yeah, that's probably the one thing I'd like to see change, but I'm pretty chill on Scotty.
I'm pretty chill as well, but I think the one question I would have is like, is there an adjustment that they can make that like what is the Raptors' route to consistently providing easier shots for him? For not making it like arduous on him all the time, And I think, you'd love to say like, okay, well, like let's get him involved more as a screener, right? That's something that gets repeated a lot. And I would love that. But he's not there yet.
I don't think he wants to screen.
He's not there yet as a screener. Like
his heart's not in it, man. I could tell.
Right, and like that's on Scotty, and you'd hope that that's something that he's willing to work on because it is a path to him getting easier buckets. Like I think there's a way that benefits the entire team, but it could benefit him as well in terms of his individual production. But then also, like, look, like there's not great pick and roll guard play on this team, so it's not like so well set up for him to play that role anyway. And like outside of transition, it's hard, man. It's hard to find easy shots for him, and he kind of has to like bash and smash and bump and swivel his way to like even just floater range, like let alone the rim, right? Like it's not easy for him. So I think that's when, like, I'm chill generally because I think Scotty's had an unbelievable year. Like, he is the heartbeat of this team. He's like a top 3 defender in basketball, and it's hard to pick nits. But I think when I start to get a little less chill is when I think about like how can they make it easier on him, and I don't see necessarily like a clear path to doing that.
I want to say chill just because I'm not gonna lie to you. I never really see Scotty dominate offensively when Jakob Poeltl's healthy. It was more, the floor was more spaced out when it was CMB with him in the front court, when they were doing more switching. I think more switching also makes life just a little bit easier for Scotty on the defensive end, so he has more to save on the offensive end. The parts that are on him are like getting better at screening and shooting. Those things always help your scoring, but I'm actually really encouraged of late. He's hitting threes better. He hit 2 buzzer beaters last night. No one cares because it was Utah Jazz, but he did. Anyway, point number 4, chill or no chill. Darko Rajakovic on challenges. On the season, he's 21-21. This is courtesy of a friend of the program, Kirtika. Shouts to Keeks for providing the stats here. So 21-21, that is the 4th worst rate in the NBA. And to put this into context, the success rate across the board, league average, is 63%. Chill or no chill, guys. Darko being 500 at challenges.
I would love to know, like, if there are a lot of stat guys who do like really good, intelligent work quantifying stuff in the NBA, right? Like, I would love to know if anybody has, or if anybody can or would or will do sort of like a survey where they actually get a proper estimate of how much a successful challenge is worth in terms of like points per possession, right? Like, what is the difference between being 50% on the year versus being 63%? I don't know. Like, maybe that's significant. It feels like, what's the difference? That's like 4 additional calls that the Raptors get right, basically. I don't know how much that's really changing things in the big picture. So
okay.
I don't worry about that too much. Like, there are times when they challenge things that are frustrating, just in terms of like game situation. Like, where are we at in the game? Versus like, how likely is this to get overturned? If it's like you're challenging something in the first or second quarter, like, you better be damn sure.
Which happens a lot,
right?
I swear we do that a lot. So there's a play where Jacoby was like, "Hey, it's out of bounds on him," and Darko was like, "Okay, I guess I'll use the challenge." I'm like, "No, man, tell Jacoby to play defense."
And if you are already sort of like biased against Darko and think he's like too much of a player's coach, I think it'd be really easy to point to stuff like that and be like, yeah, he's too much of a player's coach. He has too much faith in these guys. And when they ask him to challenge something, he just does it without any pushback. In the moment, stuff like that does frustrate me. But like, in the big picture, this isn't something I'm overly concerned about.
All right. V, back me up on this.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, like within just the context of looking at challenges, it is no chill. I think there are times where again, it's just the situational awareness, right? And I think that it just gets used up, and then later you see a moment where it's like, oh, it would be nice to have that challenge handy. And so, I do think that those moments will become more magnified in the postseason, and I think that's where we'll see, does his strategy change? Does any of it change? You would imagine that the way he's approached it to this point is how he'll approach it in the postseason. But yeah, I do think, having that challenge available, we watched Nick Nurse in his time. He was very much accustomed to just like saving it for the last 2 minutes of the game and being like, hey, like, if we need it in this situation, I want it available. And Darko definitely does not seem to be of that same school of thought. But, I do think there are those. I just like to see it more in a situation where if you're going to use it in the first half, it needs to be something where you're either saving someone from their third or fourth foul, or it's a swing play where like you potentially getting an and one instead of an offensive foul, and it's
Right.
pretty clear,
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a small thing, but it does genuinely annoy me. I mean, look, the numbers are what they are. You know what I mean? You can't argue with 500 when the league rate is 63%. Again, you have the advantage of hindsight. I don't know if it might not be a purely Darko thing. It could be on Eric Corey working the little iPad on the sideline. Not to put you and your coach online, V, because I know Eric did a great job coaching you guys to a loss in the media game. But it is a thing where it's like this can be a big momentum shifter. I think back to the Sixers game when the Raptors beat the Sixers in that overtime game. Elijah Martin's like waving in Tyrese Maxey's face. There were 2 calls down the stretch where the Raptors used the challenge correctly back to back that forced overtime to begin with. You know what I mean? And of course, like, not every game comes down to the challenge. At most, it swings 2 possessions for you in a game. So even at most, it swings 6 points. But let's say on average, a challenge can be valuable for like 1 or 2 points. I'm sorry, but if you look around the league in terms of, like what teams like plus minuses are on the season, most teams are within plus or minus 2 points on the year. So this is a really big thing for me. And I think it's also big because it's eminently correctable by the whole team. But, this is fun. I like that you guys play this little chill or no chill with me. Guys, you guys can make the chill choice yourselves, obviously with Coors Light. The goal is simple. You put the Coors Light in the fridge, you wait for the mountain to turn blue. And, when you start to feel a little stressful in the game, that's when you pull it out and, make that chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light. Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly, and you must be of legal drinking age. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to look at, do you feel confident about the Raptors' future? Da-na-na, da-na-na.
Hey, Will, how you holding up as the seasons start to shift here in Toronto?
Honestly, I'm feeling pretty refreshed, man. We had a great time at NBA All-Star.
Oh, it was so great to get some sun on the West Coast. Me, you, and Jerome got to hang out together because we found the perfect place on Airbnb.
Yeah, you already know the deal, okay? For all these road trips that we got, for all these personal trips that we got, first place we start is by looking for a great place on Airbnb, and there's always lots of options to pick from.
Yeah, quick drive to the arena, so it was perfect for work. We're able to get back home pretty early every night, hang out in the living room together, watch old NBA All-Star games, and when we got sick of each other, we just each went to our separate rooms, which was just perfect.
It was perfect, but I gotta say, some of these old All-Stars, they were a problem.
Hey!
Back in the day, they took that game real serious, but I think for us this time, we found a great spot where it was in a great neighborhood. We got to find our local breakfast places, which was huge. I mean, some of those smoothies just kept us alive on these trips, but we near some bars as well. And I think for what we wanted out of the trip, both from a work and leisure perspective, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and I've got some vacation days banked, so definitely going to be booking a couple more trips here. And I'm definitely going to be using Airbnb, especially their guest favorites feature, which is going to show me the highest rated homes on Airbnb.
Oh, hold on. I hope you got a room for me, because after all these trips, I got separation anxiety, man.
Of course, bro.
Whenever we book a place to stay on Airbnb, we know that we'll find something that works for us.
Hey.
How many possible vacation days does this man have left, man? How is he still in New York right now? Demand this man come home. All right, we're going to talk about the future of the Raptors, and this is a piece that you guys wrote about on Raptors in 7, the Substack that you guys can subscribe to. Me personally, I like reading in the email. I don't know, I just like looking at my little Gmail and just like scrolling through. But of course, you can go through Substack as well. But yeah, you guys had a nice piece where you guys kind of went back and forth, threw it back like 10 years, the old Grantland email correspondence. And it was nice to hear both of your thoughts. One of you guys, I think, was a little bit more positive. That was Vivek. And Wolfond, once again, you are walking cup of cold water, ready to douse anybody in the sauna right now. But the piece is actually entitled, "Do the Raptors Have Upward Mobility? A Debate." I kind of looked at a couple points that I wanted to sort of touch on. Biggest thing, I think, in terms of believing the future of the team is like, okay, what's their record against top teams? Do they have any ability to punch up? After the Nuggets lost, the Raptors are now 5-19 against teams in the top 10. But Vivek, you had a point in there that it may be not as bad as it seems. 5-19 might not just be 5-19. Why is that?
Well, for me, when I look at the 5-19, I also look at this team being extremely top heavy in terms of properly evaluating that. And I think the Raptors are very unique in terms of how dependent they are on each member of the starting five. Like, obviously, you can look at Minnesota and say, okay, you take away Ant, and there's so much that changes. You look at certain teams and you take away the superstar, and it's like with the Raptors, it's like you could take away Quickly or Barrett or Pirtle, and so much fundamentally changes with this team. And so I feel like the importance of their starting five being intact is pretty high, and that's where having only of those games, those 24 games you mentioned, having only been intact for 7 of them, where they're 3-4, gives me hope that there is stuff that can be figured out. And I'd also say that a factor in that is the record against teams that are above 500 but not in that top 10 club. And so the Raptors, as of when I wrote that article, were 12-6 against those teams. And that's talking about the Miamis, the Atlantas, the Orlandos. If they were struggling against those teams too, then I'd say, okay, you know what, like, they are really just beating up on the bad teams. And so that's where, if you look at that combination, I still feel like there is some upward mobility if they can just be healthy long enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's not like Will asked about punching up though, right? So like beating those teams that you mentioned in the like between 500 and 600 winning percentage kind of range. That's more
Wait,
so like
Wolfond,
punching
hold on.
sideways, right?
Could you just check your mic? I think you might be on the wrong input here.
Okay.
You might have switched inputs. We want to make sure you sound crispy.
There we go.
You say what you're going to say. There we go.
Better?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so that's more so punching sideways, right? Like beating those teams that are kind of in their same bracket. And
Okay.
I know I made this point to you, V, in the debate that we had, the piece we wrote going back and forth, but like it's not a good thing that the Raptors are as dependent as they are on every member of their starting five. Like, it's kind of a flaw in the construction of the team that it's like if you take out one of those Jenga blocks, then the whole structure sort of wobbles and threatens to topple over. And injuries are a fact of life in the NBA, right? Like, you have to be built to survive them. And the Raptors just kind of aren't, right? Like, if you go through those games that they have played against top 10 opponents where they have struggled so badly, like, yes, you could say, well, there was a guy missing here, a guy missing there. Like, the teams they were playing against were shorthanded as well in some form or fashion, So I just don't think it's fair to be like, well, if this team is like fully healthy and everybody's clicking, like, then they could be something, because that's not really how it works. Like, you have to be prepared.
It can work for a playoff series, which is what the discussion was.
Yes, but like, again, it's like, okay, are they going to be fully healthy and the team that they're playing against is not? Because if we're comparing sort of like full strength against full strength, I still think, in spite of like how good the starting lineup has looked lately, it has. It's been really exciting how good that unit has clicked. I still think like I don't know, like, you have to have other levers that you can pull, and you have to have depth that can sort of, whether you're playing in transitional lineups, whether you're covering for an injury. I just think to be like, well, if this team is fully healthy, then is not like a great way to look at the way that the team is built and the way that it's trending.
I will have to say, though, part of the reason I lean more with Wolfond on this is, like, I've seen losses. That's part of the 5-19. Like, they lost to the Nuggets without Jokic at home. They lost to the Celtics without Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. Lost to the Pistons without Duren and Stewart, right? Like, got killed in that game.
Right. Like, B-Ball Paul literally fried them. So, like, there are things in there. I mean, like, ultimately, it's not like a completely damning thing for me, because I think for a young team on the way up, I'm not expecting everybody to be the Charlotte Hornets and just somehow be giant slayers right off the bat. It probably will take some time. I do expect a losing record. I think it's just how predictable that it is that they lose against the top 10 teams. really starts to stand out. But that being said, they did beat OKC on the road, and they did beat Detroit recently with Cade in Toronto. I think another point that was brought up, so this is one of the symptoms of the team, but it's just like the team doesn't necessarily have like obviously strong shooting, but part of that is also like strong ball handling. And Wolfond, you wrote, the floor will shrink even further when the league's second worst wide open 3-point shooting team is there to take jumpers. This is looking ahead to a postseason. I guess both are concerns, but if you have to pick one, what's a bigger concern? The lack of strong ball handling or the lack of 3-point shooting?
They sort of go hand in hand, right? Like, I think really what it's going to come down to is to go back to the point that I was making about guys getting scouted, right? Like the way that Shed has sort of been scouted and solved by defenses and the struggles that he's had as a result of that. It's like there are certain guys who are going to be invited to take wide open threes who are going to be functionally ignored on offense. And then there are certain guys like Jacoby Walter, for example, who's been shooting the ball really well, who are going to be dared to put the ball on the floor and make something happen. Like Walter, right. Quickly, guys like that, right? Where if, they are guys who are dependent on their 3-point shooting and struggle when they put it on the floor. And then there are other guys who, like Jamal Shed, who can put it on the floor but struggles when he's dared to take jumpers. And so I think it's like those two problems are connected, right? It's like you already don't have a ton of, what I've called ball handling resiliency, where it's like there are not a lot of guys who can sort of like drive the ball through a crowd, drive the ball through a dig. Brandon Ingram, especially lately, has just been getting pushed off the ball way, way too easily. Quickly, we know, like, sort of doesn't really trust his handle in traffic. RJ is sort of like the one guy who has that kind of resiliency, like who can drive the ball through a crowd, but like that's almost more just about his strength than it is about his ball handling ability. But it's like that lack of ball handling is compounded by the fact that because they don't have a ton of 3-point shooting, the floor is crowded. They are having to play in a crowd a lot, and they just don't have enough guys who can actually like drive the ball through that. So like the Raptors, in terms of like drives, they're like middle of the pack. They drive the ball fairly regularly. And in terms of rim frequency, they're actually above average because of how much stuff they get off of like cutting, screening, passing, and transition. But if you look at like how often they turn their drives into points, it's like a bottom 5 rate in the league. So they're driving a decent amount. They're just not like scoring on those drives a lot. And I think that's a result of like the kind of defenses they're facing, the bunched up defenses they're facing because they don't have the shooting. And then again, like the lack of guys who can actually like take the ball from the top of the floor to the front of the rim against a set defense. So I think both of those things are like big concerns looking ahead to the playoffs.
Yeah, this is like, for me, this question gets asked a lot, and when we do post games and we're taking questions. But the question is like, okay, which positions do the Raptors look to upgrade to sort of take them to the next level? And I know there's other positions that you could potentially look at, but I keep looking at the point guard position. That sort of lead playmaker, ball handler, and of course it's very difficult to get one of these guys on the team. But like that more than anything else, like I said, like a prime Drew Holiday, even a prime Kyle Lowry, like these type of guys, like it feels so evident that they're missing this, and that the fact that we keep having these debates, and I feel like we've had them for like the last 5 years, is like, who should run point? Should it be Fred? Should it be Scotty? Should it be IQ? Like, should it be RJ? It's like, no, man, there should just be a clear cut. Like, no one ever argued that, like, hey, man, someone else should run point guard, not Kyle. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard. It's very hard. You look around the NBA, there are very few Kyle Lowrys, but I don't know. Is there a position you look to upgrade? Like, how do we get to the next level? Via, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point guard would be the clearest area. I think that, in terms of just improving moving forward, there are going to be conversations to be had at shooting guard. There are conversations that are going to be had over the center position. And I think, if you genuinely want to keep playing this Darko style of ball, then, at what point do you say that, like, Brandon Ingram has, like, regained his market value and there's potentially a chance for an upgrade there too, right? And I think that's where, when people make the comparison of, like, this team to the 2013-14 team and whatnot, like, we talk about Brandon Ingram and DeMar in terms of what they can do in the mid range, but is there a path to where Ingram is just consistently, like, say, for example, next season he's on course to play 70 plus games and everyone's now feeling good about his health? Is there a path to an upgrade there? And that's kind of been the Raptors' MO, where they haven't been able to necessarily pluck free agents, but it's just make these chip by chip upgrades at each position. And I think that's where something that gets lost in talking about the future, where, I think because we've seen this path of 2013-14 eventually become 2019, we now look at this team and say, oh, well, I don't see it with this group. So something has to change, right? Like, I don't think anyone was looking at the 2013-14 group and saying, Kyle and DeMar won't win you a championship. Get rid of them now,
They didn't say that at all.
There was no talk of that whatsoever. And so it was about building. And I think that's where it's about having that patience, having these players grow. Like, you can't tell me that RJ Barrett's value is the same or is lower than what it was when he left New York. It is absolutely higher. And so that I think, when you talk about upward mobility and the future of this team, there are paths to an upgrade. And so, this narrative that I've heard from multiple people, whether it be the fan base, whether it be even in media, saying this team is going nowhere fast, I struggle to see that.
Yeah, and by the way, to the point about the 2013-14 team to 2019, I mean, literally one guy's the same. It's Kyle Lowry, right? Because, like, we love Jonas, but Marc Gasol was always who we wanted Jonas to become. I remember even in 2014 they were talking about opening a trade for Marc around that time. Serge and Pascal is like a huge upgrade over Amir Johnson. All due respect, I love Amir. Who was our three that year? Terrence Ross. Turning that into Kawhi. I mean, come on now. I guess Kawhi would be the upgrade over DeMar, in which case Terrence Ross is the upgrade over, or Danny Green's the upgrade over Terrence Ross. Like, it happens. The young guys either reach there or they don't. I think the other part too with that run was they're able to do such good drafting around the margins, which brings me to the question of, like, how much internal development can still drive this team? Because there still are, at least four main prospects that are in the rotation on a nightly basis, with Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick until very recently, and Colin Murray Boyles. And I don't know. I mean, Wolfond, how many starters do you see in that mix?
You'd hope to. Like,
okay.
Optimistically, I think. Yeah, exactly. Shed, I love him. I love the way he plays. I, again, really appreciate his contributions to the team this year. It's hard for me to imagine him as a starter long term. There's just a lot that he would have to fix, and it goes beyond just, like, the shooting, right? Like, the shooting's one thing. He's shooting 31% from three, but he's at, like, 41% from two, which is almost a bigger worry, honestly. Just, like, starting from, like, that low a baseline in terms of being able to score inside the arc. And I mean, look, Fred was never, like, a good inside the arc finisher, but he turned himself into a really, really good 3-point shooter, and that turned him into a starter in the league. But it's like, that's a tough developmental track to follow, to being a starting point guard in the league. So CMB absolutely has that potential. I think that the question with him is, like, what does the team look like around him and Scotty? Like, that would sort of permit him to start. I think obviously you don't want to. He's 20 years old, right? So the team could look a lot differently 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road. So what it looks like now doesn't, necessarily have to inhibit the type of player that he can be, whether he can start long term. But I do think it's fair to acknowledge that, like, him and Scotty as, like, a nucleus is not, like, the easiest one to build around.
Yeah, it's not a lot of shooting, and it's a little undersized.
Well, that's the thing, right? So it's like, if CMB has basically played center, or him and Scotty have shared center duties when they've played together this year. The two of them and Yak have played, like, 10 minutes together this year. So either, like, there needs to be significant offensive development from one of CMB or Scotty to allow them to play together with another center on the floor. Or, like, when they play together, it sort of has to be in those smaller ball lineups, which have been really successful this year. but
Sure.
maybe aren't like sustainable long term. So it's just, look, I think those guys have been very, very good playing together this year. I think that bodes well for the future, but it's not like having like a point guard and a wing or a point guard and a center as your foundations to build with moving forward. Like, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, I think with CMB, like it is interesting because he played so differently in college. I actually recently asked him about this, and I'm like, just his role in college versus now, and this is a very common thing for guys to play entirely different games for college versus they do in the pros. But like CMB in college was like, get the ball at the elbow every game, every play, face up, back down, get to the cup, play make. It just like did a ton, like, kind of like Julius Randle with the Knicks, when they first made their first playoff run, like that type of player. And whatever, it's like, I'm not excited to become Julius Randle. But like CMB in Toronto is totally different. He never does that. He's literally like shooting is the last priority here. And I just hope that with more development and more skill things, like I could see the fit potentially long term with Scotty as a tandem. But there is you are investing in very overlapping skill sets. Like both their best skills are the same thing.
But also, can I just say, like, if CMB turned into Julius Randle offensively with like his defensive ceiling, I'd be
amazing
pretty
player.
freaking happy with that.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Like I'd be over the moon if we got to that level. So, but yeah, even then, right? Like there would still be fit issues to kind of sort out at the offensive end. It wouldn't be a perfect fit.
Okay. Well, I wanted to hear from everyone else too. Like, are you confident in the Raptors' future? I think overall everyone's really happy with this season, but I do think it is like, it is wise to also take a step back sometimes to just look at the overall direction and sort of how it's going to go. A lot of things get decided in the playoffs as well. But yeah, before we go, actually, we're gonna take a little vacation, and then we're gonna take a little pop quiz that I did not tell you guys about, but I guess that is the nature of a pop quiz. But first, Sunwing Vacations helps Canada and Canadians save more so that they can do more on the resort with all-inclusive packages that bundle flights, hotels, and transfers all into one easy price, including added perks such as complimentary airport transfers. With a wide assortment of all-inclusive packages to dozens of sun destinations in Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central America, Sunwing makes getaways simple so you can just focus on enjoying your time and exploring beyond the resort. And Sunwing has partnered with Ocean by H10 Hotels. Ocean by H10 Hotels offers all-inclusive beachfront resorts designed for easy, relaxing getaways, and dining typically includes buffet, a la carte options, plus snacks and casual bites throughout the day. You're just going to, you just want to have everything taken care of. Literally, you go with Sunwing, you go with H10 Hotels, everything's going to be taken care of for you. And that's what you ultimately want on a little vacation. So let's bring back in Wolfond and Vivek. Sorry, I'm just always used to saying Cash and Wolfond. We're going to do a little pop quiz because I saw this tweet from Vivek Jacob yesterday that, went the rounds a little bit. Here we go. Big V tweets, Raptors roster now has a number 1 overall pick in Markelle Fultz, a number 2 overall pick in Brandon Ingram, a number 3 overall pick in RJ Barrett, and a number 4 overall pick in Scotty Barnes. Raptor says forget tanking. We'll still get this level of talent on the roster. But this did get me thinking, would you guys be able to name all of the players in franchise history that have been number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 picks? So we'll start with the number 1 overall pick. 4 players in Raptors history have been number 1 overall picks. Can you two combine to name all 4?
Andrea
Bards.
Bargnani.
Why is that your first one? I guess that's the only one we ever had.
That's the one we picked. That's...
Okay,
so
Bargnani, 1.
Obviously Fultz.
Yeah.
Damn.
Come on, guys. Thought this would have been the easy one.
There's
one-
Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Bennett. There you go. I didn't realize he played 19 games for the Raptors, too. For some reason, I remember him coming to training camp and getting cut. But shouts to AB. And then there's one more. It's very tricky, but it's also a very prominent player. Like, this player was definitely worth the number 1 overall pick.
This player is definitely worth the number 1 overall pick.
Is it Hakeem Olajuwon?
It is Hakeem Olajuwon. That's right.
Nice,
Come on,
nice,
guys.
Jerome.
Well
Yeah.
done. Okay. All right. That's a little easy. I'm gonna turn off the chat so that they don't spoil it off for you guys. The Raptors, to my knowledge, they only have ever had 2 number 2 overall picks. Obviously, one of them is Brandon Ingram. That's the layup. Can you name the other one? So the Raptors did draft him, if you want a hint. Raptors actually did use our own number 2 pick.
Was it Camby?
Marcus Camby, that's right.
That's what I was thinking.
Well done. Camby, back in the day, man, blocking 4 shots a game. Technically, they've also had Alonzo Mourning and Kenny Anderson, but famously, they refused to report to Toronto, so I'm not going to count them. Okay?
Yeah, I would not say that they ever had Alonzo Mourning.
Fair enough. But if you never wanted to be counted as a Raptor, you're not getting counted as a Raptor. Moving on to the number 3 overall picks. The Raptors have employed 5 of these in their franchise history, to my knowledge. Can you guys name all 5?
Chauncey.
Okay, tricky. Chauncey Billups, yes. Raptors did use to pick on him as well. No, they didn't. No, they traded for him. Never mind. They traded for Chauncey.
Yeah, but then they only had him for like half a season, and then they turned around and traded him, I believe.
That counts.
Number three. I mean, Anton Jameson, I guess. Does that count?
No.
Jameson
Anton Jameson was the 4th pick.
5 swap. Nope.
Oh, that was a 4-5 swap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of them's on the roster right now, guys. I mean, Vivek, it's part of your tweet, so.
Yeah. RJ, obviously.
RJ.
So I'm gonna have to give you some hints for the other 3, unless you guys have them off the top of your head.
Please do.
All right, one of them the Raptors employed recently as a extension of their Vision 6-9 efforts.
Otto Porter.
Yeah, Otto Porter. This man was stealing money from the Raptors. I don't care what you say, man. You're stealing Raptors money.
What was it, like a toe? Like he had gangrene or something? It was like a sore toe, and then it was a dislocated toe, and then I think they just amputated it at the end.
Wizards auto kill the Raps, though.
Oh, yeah. Wizards Otto Porter. Yeah, he owned DeMar in that 2015 sweep. Let's not go back to that. 2 more names on the list. One of them is currently a general manager in the NBA. Perhaps the most undeserving GM in the NBA, I might add, but whatever.
At number 3?
Yep. I was surprised that this card was picked 3rd overall. I had to double check it. But former Raptor.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. No, this is a different. No, am I wrong on this? Why did it say this? Okay, you know what?
Were you thinking of Landry Fields?
No, for some reason I'm thinking Sean Marks. For some reason they listed him as the 3rd overall pick. He is definitely not that. He's the 44th pick. Never mind.
Yeah.
Scratching him. All right, one last name on the list. Let me just double check then. Holy. Sorry guys, I'll let you guys down. Was this guy number 3 overall pick? He was. Okay, this player is a very obscure Raptor. Only played 4 games with the Raptors in their 2nd ever season. Their name is alliterative. You know, starts with the same character. Very, very British sounding name, and his nickname is named after a very common tourism site in London.
Oliver Miller?
Okay.
No.
Oliver Miller does sound British, okay? I'll give you that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, like, I don't know. I'm thinking like Big Ben, but...
Yeah, Big Ben, yes. Okay.
Big Ben was Big Ben was the nickname?
Yes, but it wasn't Ben Wallace, okay? Just to be very clear.
Well, yeah, no, he was undrafted, so it couldn't have been him, but...
That's right.
In their 2nd ever season?
Yeah, in 96, 97, he played 4 games for the Raptors, started 3 games.
Not a clue.
No.
Blank.
Benoit Benjamin.
Bro.
Who?
What's the 3rd overall pick? No, what? Streets remember Benoit Benjamin? A very British sounding chap.
Are you sure it wasn't
boy.
Benoit?
It might be
heard of it.
Benoit Benjamin. Benoit Benjamin.
Benoit is not a name, my guy.
No, I'm pretty sure his name's Benoit. Guys, is it not
Nah,
Benoit?
that's Benoit. That's Benoit.
Benoit Benjamin?
Benoit?
It says on the pronunciation guide Ben and then dash capital Oyt in capitals. That's Benoit. He's like Deloitte, but it's Benoit. All right, forget this. Alex would have settled this as the OG among all of us. He would have settled this. All right, last one. The Raptors have, to my knowledge, 5 fourth overall picks. 5 number 4 overall picks in their franchise history. I'm actually generously counting 2 of them, but they also happened recently. Anyway, name all 5, please.
Well, Scotty and Bosch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. There you go.
Those are easy ones off the top. Now we do number 4.
Another one was technically on the team this year. Technically.
Mobamba?
Like they had him in camp or something?
Oh, it was during the season. But he was never physically in Toronto. They had him in theory. And it wasn't Mo Bamba, by the way.
Oh, Chris Paul wasn't 4.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Paul. Yeah, Chris Paul was the 4th pick. Chris Paul was the 4th pick.
Damn.
Yeah. There's only 2 more names on this list. One of them held one of the most prestigious Raptors franchise records. In fact, I believe he still holds this record for the Raptors, but he also held a co-share of this record for the NBA at large.
Muggsy Bogues?
What was the record, man? what record were you thinking of?
Just being 5'3". Most prestigious record you could hold.
The Earl Boykins Award. This player would have been a problem, more of a problem in today's NBA. Was a pretty good player back in his day too, but would have been excellent in today's NBA.
Donyell Marshall.
Yes, Donyell Marshall.
That's a good hint.
And then lastly, the last guy, he came to training camp with the Raptors recently. It was Josh Jackson. It's not fun to guess Josh Jackson. Who cares?
Oh, I fully did not even remember him getting a training camp invite, but
yeah, he was part of, again, Vision 6-9. I think he got cut that year. Justin Champagnie won the spot. And quite frankly, Justin Champagnie has carved out a nice career for himself. Both Champagnie twins are doing quite well. I appreciate you two. Not quite the Champagnie twins, but the Raps and 7 twins. V and Wolfond, you guys held it down. I apologize to suggest that that I threw you guys off by thinking Sean Marks was the 3rd overall pick. I swear that was a real GM that screwed up, not me on this one. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Anything you guys want to plug before you guys go?
Just before you guys go, I do want to confirm from watching some old tape that it is Benoit Benjamin.
damn.
Oh, come on now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys don't know ball. You guys don't know ball.
Yeah.
like
Clearly
I know
not.
ball.
Like Will said on his basketball reference page, it's listed as Benoit as the pronunciation, but then I also just watched some highlights of him playing against Bill Cartwright. And on the play-by-play, it would say, shot made by Benoit Benjamin. I was trying to clip it soon enough for you guys, but I'm going to confirm on this. Yeah.
I'm looking at his basketball reference page now too. Like he's from Louisiana, so it would make sense for him to have like a French
name.
sounding name.
Yeah. But yeah.
But they pronounce it differently over there.
I guess.
Benoit. Anyway, before we say bon nuit to both of you guys, what do you guys what do you guys got? What do you guys want to plug, man?
I'm gonna let V handle this. So
Check out Raptors in 7 if you haven't already. I think we're doing a lot of great written work, and especially as we gear up for the postseason, I don't think you want to miss our content. So make sure you subscribe. Will, as you said, it comes straight into your email. It's the easiest way to consume it. So make sure you do that.
There you go. All right, I appreciate both of you guys. We're gonna stick around and wrap up the show, but you guys can log off now. Wolfond, I know you got family time to sort of get to.
Indeed.
So I appreciate both of you guys for popping on, and we'll be checking in. I don't know. This was more of a lukewarm kind of assessment on the season, but hopefully we backed it up with a couple of points of data at the very least. But finally, before we go, I want to let you guys know that this next segment is brought to you by ToonieBet, Sportsbook, online and casino. Thousands of slot games and live casino at your fingertips, and a sportsbook made just for Ontario. get your game on with ToonieBet. So I'm looking at the games tonight, and usually we don't get to do this because, usually it's after the game and it's pretty late. But I'm looking ahead at a couple of the games. Notably, the Raptors wrap up their 5-game road trip tomorrow night against the LA Clippers. The Clippers are actually favorites in this one, -3.5. But come on, we got to bet with our heart here in this one. And the Raptors, it's going to be a real fight. I think it's going to be a really close game. It's going to come down to some fine margins. The Clippers are not easy to beat at all at the moment. Garland's been hooping. Garland's a menace in more ways than you could possibly know. And they obviously got Kawhi Leonard and, all that. But, man, Raps need this one. And I think especially for... It's not a statement win, but I do like the idea of like Scotty getting up for this big matchup against Kawhi. If you notice, Scotty's had some really great games against the top teams. And I know the Clippers aren't that, but like, these matchups where he's gotten up for LeBron, he's gotten up for Steph, he's gotten up for Jokic recently, he's gotten up against OKC. I want to see him shut down Kawhi Leonard. And that is going to be very difficult, but I think Scotty's incredibly impressive on the defensive and incredibly competitive, and if he can hold Kawhi to a semi-reasonable line, and if the Raptors can also make sure that Darius Garland isn't just like nailing threes in your eye, they can get it done. So yeah, let me take the Raptors +3.5 against the Clippers on Friday night. But I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, and of course you can hit up ToonieBet.com for all your sports betting activities. ToonieBet is licensed and regulated by the AGC on iGaming Ontario. 19 plus Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So we're going to come back tomorrow night with the recap of Raptors Clippers. It'll be very late. It's like 10:30 game. So, for anybody who wants to stay up late, I will be here for you guys, staying up late with you guys. Otherwise, we'll be back on Thursday. Alex will be back in Toronto at that point, and we can get him back on the show and not just through our pre-recorded advertisements. And otherwise, let us know. Do you feel confident in the Raptors' future? But I appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll catch you very late tomorrow night. Peace.